Today's Shir is we're going to be going over the end of Sif Gimel, Siman Pei Zayin Sif Gimel. We're going to be talking about the sugya, the concept of Maaris. So in the Gemara, in the Rishonim in the Gemara, Rashi brings in multiple places different reasons for the issue of Maaris. Maaris again is you're not allowed to do something, even if the thing that you're doing is not usr. But if it's going to look like you're doing an Isser, you're not allowed to do it. And it's a rabbinic Isser. And there's two reasons for it. First of all, is the obvious that people are going to think that if you're doing the Isser, they can also do the Isser. So people are going to come to follow after your ways. That's number one. Another reason is because L'maisa, there's a concept that in the Torah V'yisim Nikiyim that we're supposed to not appear to be doing things wrong. We're supposed to look clean in the eyes of our brothers. We're not supposed to be doing things that make us look like we're doing Averos. So that's another reason for the din of Maaris. In our sugya today, we're going to discuss whether or not we apply the concept of Maaris by Issurei Derrabanan. So the Ramah says in Sif Gimel, the end of Sif Gimel, V'noagu lasois cholov mishkedim. There's a minhag to make. There was a minhag people used to do. They used to take almond milk. They used to make milk from almonds, and manichem al basar, and they would put in the almond milk. They would put chicken. And that is not a problem. Since the whole din of basar v'cholov by chicken and milk is only rabbinic, so therefore there's no problem. But if it is the meat of an animal with almond milk, then there's an issue of Maaris, like we saw earlier in Siman Samach Vav L'inyan Dam regarding the sugya of blood of a fish. Okay, so the Ramah's opinion is very clear that we do not say the din, the Yisr of Maaris. We don't say the Yisr of Maaris by Issurei Derrabanan. We don't say it. Okay, it's anyways only Asur Derrabanan, so we don't apply on top of that the Isser of Maaris. The Shach over here in Sif Koton Vav says the following. V'noagu lasois cholov mishkedim v'chulu hoil v'chulu. Kloimer, what does the Ramah mean to say when he says, as we see in Siman Samach Vav, it's not similar to the case of the blood of a fish. So if Siman Samach Vav shemutar legamri, it's totally permissible. Right? Blood of a fish is permissible. But if you gather all the blood into a vessel, also then it's also because it looks like you're drinking milk. Elam yesh by kaskasim, unless it has in it the scales of the fish. Shenikr shu dam dam, because then it's obvious that it's the blood of a fish. The awesome, so over there's a din of Maaris. Over there, the awesome dam gufei asum raisa. There, the sugya of blood over there in Siman Samach Vav is an asum raisa. The person who will see it thinks he thinks you're eating the blood of animals, which is an Isser D'Oraisa. But in our case, by chicken and milk and almond milk, the whole din of chicken and milk in general, who is Derrabanan. So in Derrabanan, therefore we have no concern for the din of Maaris. That's the Ramah. That's how he understands the Ramah. Pasha. Therefore the Shach makes a very good point. You have to put almonds next to it to make a siman, to make a hecker that it shouldn't be Maaris. So that the seer shouldn't think that it's actual milk. The Teres Chatas, the Seif even says in Mefurish. Okay. Then the Shach makes the obvious point that what you have to say, even in the Ramah, you have to say the Ma'iri B'Bishul, that the Ramah, when he talks about the case of eating actual meat and almond milk, it must be that there was actual bishul there. Because if there was no bishul, I feel basar behema like Isur Daraisa, even meat of an animal, there's no Isur Daraisa just to have it non-cooked with milk. There's no Isur Daraisa, it's only Derrabanan. Only things are also Daraisa if it's cooked. So therefore, Ein Tzarech Laniach Shkedim. So if it's not cooked, you wouldn't need to put Shkedim because it's just like chicken and milk. So it must be that the Rama is talking about that it was actually cooked. Clear in the Teres Chatas like that. Ayin Sham. Ube Simani Teres Chatas, and in the Sefer Simani Teres Chatas as well. Aval Marshal Perkal Basar Siman Nun Beis with the Marshal Lomad Mehach the Dam Dogim the Purim. He learns from the case of the blood on Purim. He learns from the case of blood of fish. The Purim that on Purim Kiyotzabai. And similar days, that they had a minhag, they had a custom to eat chicken and milk of almonds. Sha'aser, it's forbidden, even in the case of chicken and milk. Unless you put almonds inside of it and on the side, like kera, as a siman, as to recognize that it's only almond milk. And specifically even by chicken. That you don't want to be, that there's even more of a concern. That you don't want people to say, that chicken and milk is even mutter rabbinically. So there is the Rama, very clearly that distinguishes and says chicken and milk or any Isur Derrabanan or Basar B'chol, there's no din of Maaris. The Marshal, he says, no, there is a din. There is a din of Maaris even by Derrabanans. And he says even specifically this Derrabanan, which we want to make sure that people don't start looking, not even treating it as a Derrabanan because there's shitas like that in the Gemara. We have to be even more careful to say there's Maaris. Zot the Shach v'chein nir lafianias daiti, says the Shach, and this is what I believe as well. The Shach agrees with the Marshal. Even by matters that are rabbinically forbidden, we're concerned about Maaris. We find this in many places. There's a Gemara in Shabbos. An animal shouldn't go out with bells, even if it's plugged up. It looks like you're going, like the animal's going to the store. Rashi l'shuk limkar, to go do business. And business and Shabbos, so you can't bring out an animal to the shuk with a bell, even if it's not making noise. Because why? It looks like you're bringing the animal to go do business. Now, the whole Isser to do business on Shabbos is only rabbinical. It's only Derrabanan. And yet still we have Maaris. Behind the Maaris, and that's Maaris. So you see, Maaris applies even by Issurei Derrabanan. Like we saw in Ba Meisha. Muskum Mikola Paiskim, it's Muskum in all the Paiskim. Commissions Barbar Chaim Siman Shin Hey. Afal Pi Isser Mecca Humemka B'Shabbos Ein Hayal Mirabanan. Even though the Isser of business on Shabbos is only rabbinical. Kamash Kazbar Chaim, like we say in Chaim, Ubachayshim Mishmur Saisim Reish Shalom and Hey. V'chei Mugul Lehedj B'Taisis Ksubas Parakafalpi. Diver Maskum Mimacha. Da Filu B'Midi Derrabanan Chayshil Marsai. Even by rabbinical Isurim, we're concerned for Maaris. So the Shach argues Minei Ubei on the Ramah. And he says, even by Issurei Derrabanan, we're concerned for Maaris. So, yeah, and he brings L'chaira stark rayas against the Ramah. Okay. Now, on that, the Pesachei Tshuva brings the Nachlas Tzvi. The Nachlas Tzvi says, to answer up for the Ramah, Avad, it's true. There are sources that say there's Maaris there are sources that say that there's Maaris even by rabbinical prohibitions, even by Derrabanans. The Ayin Nachlas Tzvi shekasavti demiko makom ein lesser loniach basar b'chol b'shkedim b'lisha shkedim etzli ela imhu b'fnei haroyim k'may b'sudas kedos dikum Maaris gomer from the Basar mutter. The Nachlas Tzvi wants to say that the teretz to the Ramah is you're right. Those cases that you brought from by business on Shabbos, that's a public thing. You're right. Rabbinical Isurim, there is a din of Maaris if it's public. But something that is private in your house, you're eating in your house chicken and milk, Okay, if it's private, assuming it's private, that we're not going to say Maaris, says the Rambam. You brought me a raya from cases where it's in public, it's in front of a lot of people, so then there's still taka Maaris, because then taka people are still gonna, people won't know the difference, they won't understand. But when it's in private, by rabbinical stuff, we can be mekel. That is the nachlas tzvi, and it's a big heter lemaisa. It's a big heter lemaisa that if you're doing things in your house and it's only rabbinic, you could be soymech that there's no marasai. Okay. Now, stamazoi, I'd like to be ma'orer that from the language of the Ramah here, okay, it sounds like, and it's also from the language of the Shach, they had this minhag on Purim to eat chicken and almond milk. They had this minhag on Purim to do such a thing. He said from the lashon of the Ramah also, it's mashma that they had this minhag was the normal thing to do this. And still, even though the minhag was that it was normal to have almond milk, it was pretty common. Nonetheless, the Ramah clearly asers in a case where it's a daraisa, right? In a case where it's with meat, he asers it. So it's not. So from this Ramah, it's a little bit interesting. It sounds like if something would be very common, like today it's very common to have all these fake cheeses and fake cheese with meat and impossible burgers and all these different products that are fake. It's very common. But from the Ramah here, it sounds like it was customary, and yet it's still a problem. But what's very interesting is if you take a look in the Shulchan Aruch and Siman Reish Ches Tzadi, okay, by the laws of Klein, in Sif Beis, the Ramah over there says you're not allowed to sew a beged of canvas, okay, together right with a beged of wool. B'makom in a place to loy shchiach canvas, where canvas is not shchiach, where it's not common. Okay, but because it's a problem of marasayin, it looks like you're doing shatnez, even though it's not actual shatnez. It looks like it. It looks like wool and linen, even though it's not. Canvas is not wool, but sorry, it does. Canvas is not linen, but it looks like. But says the Ramah. Aval b'makom d'shchiach, but where it is common, shari. Where it's common, it's mutter. So it's very interesting. So you see, commonality, things being common, is a heter for marasai. Very logical, because the whole problem of marasai is what people are going to think. But if this is common, people aren't going to think necessarily bad about you. Why would they think bad about you? This is normal. It's normal to have fake cheese. So many poskim bizmanenu use this Ramah in Hilchas Klein as a heter for all of our different products today. But what is a ha'ara and needs to be worked out is that l'chayra, it does seem from our Ramah that this was already common back in the day, back in the times of the Ramah, back in the times of the poskim, and yet still they didn't say that was a heter. So that's a little bit of a tzarachiyim. Okay. Now, let's go to the Taz. Zok the Taz, Sifkot and Dal. What's the Taz sheet over here? So we know the Ramah says there's no Marasayim by Derrabanan. We know the Shach, L'chayra, seems to say there is Marasayim. We know the Nachal Tzvi, answers up the rise of the Shach and says that those rise that there is Marasayim in public is only Marasayim by Derrabanan is only in public, but in private there would be no Marasayim. What's the Taz's opinion? Zok the Taz, b'darkei Moshe b'teres chatas klal samav beis, kasav shemarshal lamen b'dam dagim lesser lechol basar eif b'chol shashkedim elam nichum b'shkedim etzler mishum marasayim. So that's the Marshal. The Marshal says it's also by chicken and milk, marasayim, even if it's almond milk. The Dachadvar, the Ramah argues, she'ain rain midam, she'mitzina by Yisur Karis, no proof from blood to chicken. Blood is an Yisur Karis. Moshe gave Basar eif. It's Derrabanan, and even by behema, it's only derech bishul davka. So therefore, there's no marasayin by Derrabanan, says the Ramah. Adkan in the Sefer Teres Katas. V'afki divrei Ramah nechayim. Even though the words of the Ramah l'chayra are correct, farnas pashin minigate and the minhag has already become accepted. Mikamakum nira says the Taz. Sheyesh laniach lechatchila shkedim gam etzel basar eif. Lamaisa, I say you should still put almonds next to the chicken. El b'makom shein l'shkedim ein lesser b'shvil zeh. But if you can't do it, we're not going to aser ha'achila. The chomai the efshar lom l'skunim v'saknina. Says the Taz by Maaris Ayin. We're not looking to cut corners over here. If you could try to, get away the public, eye from thinking that, from having any reason to have an issue here, we try to do that. Okay, if we can't find any almonds, okay, so we're not going to ask for the food. Bishvil zeh, we can be saimech on the Ramah, but etzem, if you could put almonds, put almonds. Okay. He says, but if there's no almonds, don't ask for the achil b'shvil zeh, like by chalavisha. B'samach. V'chein mashma l'ashem ramosh because of yesh laniach. The mashma, which is mashma, b'di'evet, oishi'i efshar. The Ramah's lashon is you should. But if you didn't, okay, or it's impossible, loy ma'akev achil b'shvil zeh. It is not ma'akev the achil b'shvil zeh. Okay. Now that's that is what the Taz says. So it sounds like the Taz says Lamaisa we could be saimach on the Ramah, but l'chatchila you shouldn't be saimach on the Ramah. It sounds like b'di'evet you could be saimach on the Ramah, but l'chatchila you should try to put almonds next to it, and if you didn't, okay, we're not going to ask for the food. Now, what is a little bit shver is that the Taz over here says, and it's also mashma like that in the lashon of the Ramah, yesh laniach, which sounds like that yesh laniach is going bit on chicken, and it's also it's going on meat. Yesh laniach. It sounds like yesh laniach, and the Taz proves from the yesh laniach that it's only lechatchila, but if b'di'evet you didn't do it, it's okay. But the Reb Kiva Eger says, I don't understand. Then if that's the case, then it should come out that even by daraisa, like meat and almond milk, a case of that would look like an Isser daraisa, it sounds like b'di'evet there's no problem with Maaris Ayin. Right? That doesn't make any sense. B'di'evet there's no Maaris Ayin is a din Derrabanan, it's an Isser Derrabanan. Well, it's only a din lechatchila, not a din b'di'evet on the whole din of Maaris Ayin. That makes no sense. Maaris Ayin is a din totally. We say it all the way through b'di'evet lechatchila, and the raya that the Taz is bringing is from a case of daraisa. So Reb Kiva Eger says he doesn't. It says it's a very shver Taz. Okay. So, anyways, that's l'chayra the sugi over here. You have the Ramah that says there's no Maaris Ayin by Derrabanan. You have the Shach that says there is. The Nachas Tzvi differentiates between whether in public there is, private there isn't for Derrabanans. And the Taz says, the Ramah we could be Saimachan, but Lamaisa, if we could be Machmir, we should be Machmir.